Hi, so I want to just discuss how relationship actually will birth the fruitness that God desires from us and outside of the religious mindset. And this is something like this is literally my testimony. This is the testimony of me finding God, me finding Christ, and what has happened as a result of actually birthing a heart of actually loving him, like him birthing a love for him in me and how it changed my life. So aside from just doing works and because we're supposed to and not actually knowing this God that we're serving. So 1 John 5:3, in fact, this is love for God, to keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. So this is what I want to kind of paint a picture for you. Like there's two columns. If there's two columns, one's religion, one's relationship. And they both have the same deeds listed under them, like the exact same thing under each row, under each column, except there's two different heart positions of these two columns. So one is doing things at a requirement. They're dead, they're burdensome, maybe doing it to be seen. I'm going to talk about the Pharisees and religious leaders back in Jesus' day, but like doing it to be seen, doing it to, because you're supposed to, versus the relationship side where you do it like 1 John 5:3 says, we're doing it from a love of God, for a love of God. They're not burdensome. And it is freely done from the fruit of the Spirit and from a changed heart and from a surrendered heart to God and from just a relationship. So imagine just being in a relationship with someone. So we can imagine family or a romantic relationship, like being in relationship with someone and serving them because you love them. Like, when you really love somebody, you would do anything for them. It's like you all of a sudden, you just sacrifices left and right. And so that's the kind of love or a walk that God desires us to have with him, and so that we birth this fruit for him out of a deep love for him. And I think what keeps coming back to me, and just from my own personal walk and my own personal testimony, from like going from everything we all know what God asks us to do. We all know the requirements. We all know what the law says. And there's like, so going from having those things and all that being on me, like the weight of it and the requirement being on me, versus understanding the fullness of what Christ did. So what I meant to say is when we understand the fullness of what Christ did, when we really see Christ, when we really see God, when you really see him, when you really see his face, when you really know him, and you understand what Christ did, you understand the fullness of Christ's sacrifice and what we truly have now. We have so much through him now, y'all. We have new identities. We have all these promises and covenants with God. It's like huge. Like we're just given this huge package because we accepted Christ. We have so much through him, and above all that is freedom, like freedom from so much stuff, y'all. So when you fully understand him, when you see God, you see God's heart, like that's where that, and like all that's lifted off of you. You're free to have the zeal, you're free to have the passion, you're free to go hard for God. And that's where I ended up, because I saw Christ and God just revealed his son to me. So and this concept is like throughout scripture. Romans 7:4 and Galatians 2:19, they both talk about dying to the law through Christ's sacrifice to live for God and to bear fruit for Christ. So this is not something that God didn't already know. Like we died to the law through Christ to live for God and bear fruit for him. Because once that heaviness is gone, once that legal requirement is gone, once you birth relationship and you love him and he has your heart, then you serve him because you love him. And that's where it becomes so heavy. When we get in those dead works, it becomes heavy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I promise y'all, religion is the reason we are so critical and judgmental of people. I promise you. I promise you that's the reason so many of us are walking around without joy. Like, and there's other things that happen, but I just know because I walked down this road and I've been there and I'm coming out of it. And it's a testimony. I feel like this is what I'm called to do. To exalt Jesus Christ. That's what I'm gonna do, and explain this, like lay it out and teach it. So we want to talk about the heart thing again. So like God having your heart versus him not, like being in a relationship with him versus not knowing him. So many times the religious leaders of the day, Jesus would talk to them and he'd say, one time he was like, you're so dirty, you're dirty on the inside and clean on the outside. He said if you would clean the inside, the outside would get clean too. So that's that whole appearance, outward works thing versus the interchange of the heart and the inner desire of the heart. So there's another important scripture, Isaiah 29:13. He says, these people come near to me with their mouths and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules that they've been taught. So, yo, this is good for me. So, that's an outward, like, worship, putting on a performance Sunday morning, y'all. Worshiping, honoring with your mouth, but then your heart is, like, far from God. And worshiping him based on human rules that you've been taught. We've been taught, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And so that's your worship of him. The don't do's, the do's and the don'ts. That's your worship of him versus your heart being for him and to him. Y'all, this is good. But so I'm not trying to make this video super long, but this is just what I'm trying to lay out. Like, when you love God, you'll keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. And that's just the difference from being works mindset and putting it all on yourself and not understanding Christ and not receiving Christ, because you'll be free to love him, free to serve him, and you will want to. Once you see God, you'll want to serve him. You'll want to do these things. So I hope that I've explained this clearly and that I've laid out what God intended me to say. But everybody be blessed.